Hi, I'm Peter Simpson, professor of bassoon at the University of Kentucky, and I have a few ideas to share with you about the 2015 Bassoon All State Bassoon excerpt number 1. This one's marked Vivace. It's from a Weissenborn collection of advanced studies. This is number 27, and they've just chosen the first part of this. Clearly there's a lot of fast notes in this, and it's marked Vivace, which may seem a little bit scary, but we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's important to look at the contour of these notes. There's a whole bunch of 16th notes. Most of them are moving stepwise, but not all. And if we make some divisions by where the leaps are, you've got D all by its lonesome there, followed by 4 notes, followed by 4 notes. So that pattern of D, we go 4 notes ending to C sharp, and then 4 notes ending to D. That's the logic behind the first part. And if we were just to take out the first note of each B, we're basically emphasizing the note D, and the note next to it brings us back to D. So you could practice this like that to sort of get the sense of how the music flows. Now within that, we've got some difficult fingerings. You've got the C sharp to deal with your left hand, and you've got the half holding for the F sharp, and that F sharp sometimes ends up sounding a little bit nasty and sharp, so you have to be a little careful with that as well. Once we leave that passage, now things are much more stepwise and kind of flow in a wave. So in the pickup to the third bar, all of that is moving very wave-like and stepwise. You should try to make that as smooth as you possibly can. Then that's followed by more of these 4-note patterns, starting with the high E. We finally end up on an A. Again, if I had played just the first note of each grouping, that's what we would have as sort of the core of the music. Then we go into another sort of wave-like idea, going up to high G. And we're going to end up on that D, which is our home base. Just need to be a little careful as you go to that high G that you don't let yourself get out of control and play it very sharp and shrill. High G on many bassoons is a note that easily plays sharp, especially when you're trying to play loud. So make sure you adjust your embouchure and your oral cavity to get that down a little bit. We come back to the opening passage, Déjà Vu. This time a little louder, but the same sort of ideas. When we get into that wave-like thing, pick up to the third line. But now there's a little change. In the second measure of the third line, we leap up just a little bit. So that makes a little change, and if I were to start after that leap, that sounds sort of B minor-ish to me, which is the relative minor key. So it kind of hovers with this little minor idea. Then we leave it through the A natural. That sounds like more familiar territory. There's that C sharp. Hover around on the A. Okay, I'm home, but I want to confirm it. Now here you have to be a little careful, because you're playing forte, you're excited, you've played a lot of notes, you're running out of air perhaps. It's possible you could do something like and be very sharp on that low D. So again, you have to adjust. It's just the way the bassoon is built. The low notes happen to be generally sharp, so you're going to have to adjust your embouchure and your oral cavity to get those couple of low notes, E and D, down to pitch. So if you need to, you can get a little help from a tuner assessing that. After a beat rest, where we can finally take a breath, you go on to a little passage which feels a lot more sprightly, and notice that he's got staccato marks under the ends of slurs, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. It doesn't mean you tongue those notes, it means that you shorten those notes. So instead of, or there were no staccato marks, I'm going to have a little separation. So I slur into the staccatos and then separate a little bit. And that gives a little bouncier feel. That sort of thing. Now, once again, if I were to play just the first note of each grouping, I'm just going up a scale. This happens to be that B minor scale that we alluded to before. Sounds a little bit spooky or sneaky or something like that. So this has some nice character to it. We get out of this thing, instead of going like that and continuing on, we leap up to the B and kind of land on that low B. A little dramatic exit. And now we've got three notes chromatically that are leading to E. Alright, so that's got some motion forward. A little bit of crescendo on those notes is obviously needed to give us that sense of motion. And then the same gesture in a slightly different key. If I play the first note of this gesture starting with E, again going up a scale. That's a little less decisive than we might expect, so it feels like it wants to go on. We're going to direct ourselves towards the note A. We land on that A, and then all of a sudden we leap way up to a high A with an accent. Well, the accent is kind of a favor because it's a little easier to pop that one out than to try to sneak in on it. And you'll notice that we're supposed to be piano and crescendo after this. So that'll help you articulate that note. I just want to say something about this passage. We have a series of scales. Go down a step, two, etc. We keep going down a step. When you're in that higher range, with high A's and G sharps and F sharps, there are a lot more possible fingerings you could use. Some of those fingerings are going to sound better in tune on your bassoon, maybe easier to play softly, maybe the timbre's a little nicer. So I would suggest that you go online. There are lots of sources where you can find alternate bassoon fingerings, or go to your teacher if you have a private teacher, and see if you can get some suggestions. It will take you a little while to learn a new fingering, but it will really be worth it in the way the thing sounds. So we come through all those scales, ending up on that same A that we had left up to, and now a little slightly new gesture, which is kind of has a lot of vitality to it, I guess I would say. And then from there, again, heralding that A, then we go down an A scale. So again, this is a piece which will go on from that point. We have modulated to the key of A, and it's going to go on to finish out several measures later. So the piece isn't really over. I would not try to sound too terribly conclusive at this point. Just give it some excitement. Now, what about the idea of the speed of this thing? Well, the faster you can do this and sound good, the more impressive it will be, obviously, for the people judging. On the other hand, there are some difficulties in here, and it would be better to have it somewhat under control than just play a lot of wrong notes or play very unevenly or something like that. So keep in mind that vivace, although it implies speed, it really translates to mean lively. So I would suggest that as you practice this slower, you always try to infuse some liveliness into what you're doing. A good rule of thumb here is you shouldn't go slower than you need to in order to play the first three lines of music in one breath, because there's not really a logical place to breathe there. So that should be at least your minimal goal, to be able to play fast enough to get through those first three lines in one breath. So I wish you good luck. Bye-bye.